Thomas the Tank Engine loves his branch line. He loves to puff along the line and thinks he has the most important part of the railway. Past the top station on Thomas's line, there is a quarry. The quarry is where stone is mined. Engines like Percy and Toby will take the trucks down to the top station, where they are used for many things. The trucks at the quarry are very troublesome. They have been known for causing many accidents. They listen to anybody but do the opposite as they say, and that would become a problem. One day, Thomas was called in to take a goods train. He was annoyed because he had to miss his afternoon passenger train. "Why can't someone else do it?" complained Thomas. "Because we're entering a busy time, Thomas," said his driver. "We're going to need an extra engine sometimes, but for the time being, we'll need you to take some of the stone trains for the top station. Toby will collect it from there." Thomas was cross. He bumped the trucks hard, causing them to bump into each other. "Oh, oh, oh!" they cried. "I want no nonsense from you," Thomas said angrily. As Thomas went down the line, the trucks were well behaved. Thomas knew this wasn't normal. When he put the trucks into a siding, he backed down to Annie and Clarabelle. Then he heard a voice. "I hope that helped." Thomas looked around, the platform, the yard, but it wasn't a person or an engine. It was a truck. "What do you mean, I hope that helped?" "I told the trucks to be good for you, because I saw how annoyed you were with pulling us." Thomas was surprised, but noticed the truck's age. He was old and frail, and looked like he had been in service since Sodor started. Just then the guard's whistle blew, and he rolled away, but not before whistling to the truck. Over the next couple of afternoons, Thomas was called into the quarry to take stone trains down to the top station. The truck was one of the trucks on the train and told the trucks to behave, or else something would happen. The trucks would stop giggling and behave on the way down to the quarry. What Thomas didn't know was that the truck was putting a breach of trust on him. One day, Thomas took Annie and Clarabelle to meet the truck. "This is the truck I've been telling you about," he said. The truck was surprised to see Thomas's coaches. "Hello, nice to meet you." Annie and Clarabelle were suspicious of the truck. "Are you sure this truck is reliable, Thomas?" asked Annie. "He's just telling them to behave. Don't worry about it." But the truck had other ideas. As they were leaving the quarry, he whispered something to the trucks. As they were coming to a hilly spot, the trucks started their games. On! Faster, faster, faster!" they yelled loudly. Thomas was shocked at the sudden jump. They rattled through the countryside and raced faster and faster towards the station. But there was worse to come. There was Percy marshaling some trucks. Thomas whistled loudly. "Look out!" Luckily, nobody was hurt, but Thomas was cross. "Mr. Truck, why didn't you help me?" The truck was concerned. I tried to tell the trucks, but they didn't listen, or so that is," boomed a voice. It was Sir Topham Hatt. "I have heard many tales about you from Toby, and you have been very troublesome recently. I hear that you've been putting Thomas into trust, and that you'd be playing a trick on him. And now, I see that trick has been done." The truck looked at Thomas, who was looking at him at disbelief. He looked down at his buffers. "Maybe, if you are shunted away for a while, you'll know not to do these kind of things." He then walked over to Thomas. "And you, Thomas, trusting a truck. That is something I would never believe. I think that maybe more quarry work will help you with your trusting with trucks. Then you can go back to passenger work." For the next couple of weeks, Thomas worked hard all day in the quarry, shunting trucks and taking some all the way to the harbor. After a while, though, he was back in service, pulling passenger trains. What about the truck? Well, Sir Topham had decided to put him out of use. He now knows not to trick anybody into liking him, not even an engine. While Sir Topham Hatt's railway was responsible for most of the goods and passengers that traveled to and from Sodor, he also relies on the roads for some transport, usually to stations. Lorries usually do this job, and Elizabeth the Vintage Lorry is one of them. She's a grumpy but useful lorry to the railway and helps the roads run smoothly. However, Elizabeth is one of the many road vehicles that doesn't like the railway. One day, Elizabeth was getting unloaded near a goods station on the Kirk Roman branch line when an engine puffed in. She was a bright yellow color with two big driving wheels and a cheerful smile. "Good morning. I don't think I've seen you before." Elizabeth sniffed rudely. How many puffers are there on this railway? I've seen so many of them by the road, ruining the beautiful day we're having." Molly was very offended by this. "I'll have you know that these engines work beside the road, but also work really useful with the road. If it weren't for us, you'd be overloaded with work." Just then, the guard's whistle blew. "Now remember what I said, dear, and don't forget that." With that, Molly puffed away. She really thinks I'm to remember that. We road vehicles could handle the workload with ease. Molly was later talking with Thomas and James. "That rude Lorry isn't the rudest Lorry I've met. It takes some time to get to know her." "Well, you shouldn't trust them at all," James argued. "I've never ever trusted lorries after those 3 lorries came and made quite a fool out of themselves." Molly was in between what Thomas and James said. Later, Molly collected a large goods train. It was heavy and she found trouble to start, but she got it moving once Philip helped her out of the station. "I don't know what to do," she thought. "Maybe I should think about it later." Meanwhile, Elizabeth was coming to a crossing. As she was rolling along, her engine started to splutter. It kept spluttering, and she came to a stop, right on the crossing. "You've run out of fuel," said his driver. "I'm going to have to go to the signal box to call for help." Elizabeth waited and waited. Suddenly, she heard an engine's whistle. "Oh no!" she cried. "What should I do?" She decided that she would try to yell. Meanwhile, Molly was puffing nicely. She hadn't stopped and was just getting to the goods station when she heard shouting. Stop! "Oh no!" Molly's driver applied the brakes, but the weight of the truck forced her on. As she came closer, Molly shut her eyes, knowing that she wouldn't stop in time. When the dust settled, it was quite a mess. Elizabeth had been pushed onto her side. Molly had derailed after rolling right on Elizabeth's cargo, and she was right beside Elizabeth. Elizabeth was all right, but she was furious. "What makes you think you can go right through the crossing and crash into me, even though I might have said a couple of rude comments?" "It wasn't my fault. I had a heavy goods train, and it forced me on. How do you expect me to stop with a lot of weight on my train?" The two argued and argued until help arrived. Neville arrived with the breakdown train, and Butch came for Elizabeth. When they were separated, Molly complained about Elizabeth to Neville, and Elizabeth complained about Molly to Butch. They both said nothing. Molly was taken into the works, and workmen checked her over. As she sat thinking about Elizabeth and how much of a fool she made of herself, she realized she was maybe a bit too harsh on her. "I sound just like James," she thought. As the workmen left her for repairs in the morning, a tear came down her eye as she realized that she had made the wrong choice. And as she sat there, she thought about lots of things, but hoped that everything would be resolved when she and Elizabeth met again. While Molly was in the works, Boco took her goods train. And while he was doing her work, Edward took his train. When Molly was about to come back, Boco had to take a goods train to Vickerstown. As he was leaving Wellsworth, he had some trouble. "Morning, Boco. Nice day, isn't it?" "Couldn't be better. I can't wait for Molly to come back. I hope Edward's managing fine. I'll ask him when I see him." But the signalman had forgot to set the points for Boco. He realized his mistake much too late. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but Boco's wheels were damaged. Soon Duck arrived with the breakdown train, and Sir Topham Hatt. "Are you all right, Boco?" "Nothing but my wheels hurt, sir," he replied. "Now we need somebody to take Molly's trains and Boco's trains. I'm sure Edward can take Molly's trains, but who will do Boco's work?" "We could do it, sir," said Duck. "Donald, Douglas, and Oliver could do my work." "Are you sure, Duck? I don't want you to feel overworked." "It'll be fine, sir. I always want to help out my friends when I can." "That's settled. I will tell the others immediately. You should get to the station. Murdoch can take Boco to the works on his train." A little while later, Duck was at Knapford, getting ready to depart. He was waiting for everybody to get on board. Just then, Edward puffed in. "Hello, Duck. Lovely day we're having, yes?" "Let's hope this lovely day has Boco repaired soon." "Me too. I'm going to get one of Molly's trains at Brendam. I'll show you where to stop while I'm at it." Soon the guards whistle blew, and Edward and Duck were off. Meanwhile, Philip was shunting a train for Arthur. He was in his happy, jolly spirit. While he was shunting, he heard a voice. "Why, hello, little engine." Philip stopped in his tracks and looked around. He only saw the trucks he was shunting, and a grey truck. "I have some news from Sir Topham Hatt. I need you to shunt me onto that train of yours." "Why should I trust you? You're a troublesome truck, after all." "Why would I lie, my dear engine? I've been here for years, and Sir Topham Hatt knows to trust me." Philip, being the young-spirited engine he is, believed in the old truck, and shunted him to the train. Little did he know, he was the truck that put Thomas in his breach of trust, and had been meant to stay in the siding. A little while later, Arthur arrived, and he took his train away. Meanwhile, Edward and Duck were puffing along Edward's Branchline. "So how does it feel to be back on the line?" asked Edward. "Feels great. I haven't seen you in a while," answered Duck. "Good to hear. I know you enjoy the line." Meanwhile, Arthur was going along the main line. The trucks were behaving, all except the great truck. He saw Wellsworth in the distance, and he had an idea. "Hey, you lot, I have an idea. Let's push right into the yards and straight into that siding." The trucks giggled. They thought it was a good plan, so they passed it on. When they got close enough, their plan into action. "Now!" And the trucks pushed Arthur. "Slow down, we have to go slow here," cried Arthur. "On, on, on!" And rattled into the yard, disastrously. Luckily, nobody was hurt, and the crash wasn't serious. But Arthur was on his side, the trucks giggling behind him. When Edward and Duck arrived, they were most surprised. "Oh dear, what happened, Arthur?" "I don't know," he said. "The trucks just pushed me, and I just derailed." Duck knew what to do. "Edward, I'll go get the breakdown train. You take my passengers." A little later, Duck arrived with the breakdown train, and Sir Topham Hatt again. "Arthur, are you all right?" "I'm fine, sir, but these trucks pushed me. That's why I derailed." Sir Topham Hatt looked around, and then he saw a familiar face. "You are in big trouble. Philip told me that he had shunted you onto the train, and I was in disbelief. Another lie from you. I should have known. While I don't know what to do with you just yet, I know that it will not be a nice punishment." The truck stayed silent. "Duck, you have been quite a lot of help today. Knowing what to do in a situation like this is very responsible. I am proud of you. You are a really useful, duck." "Thank you, sir." In the next couple of days, Duck took Boco's trains to and from Brendam Docks. One day, Duck was waiting in the station when he saw a familiar face. Boco! Good to see you again! Good to be back. I'll take the train for you today. So Tom Matt says you can have a rest in the shed. As Boco coupled up and took the train away, Duck told him all the news. Sounds like that truck deserved it. Well, good to see you, Duck. And Duck was glad to see him too. Sir Topham Hatt had ordered some special coaches from the mainland. He was to have a special service that ran all the way to Manchester. It was going to be hard work, but the engines were up for the challenge. The Fat Controller wondered who to put on the train. He thought about Emily and Henry, but in the end, he chose James, which made him going into a boastful mood. "I'm the most important engine on Sodor. That's the reason he didn't choose you, Henry," said James. "Well, I never ever wanted to pull that train anyways. Do you actually think it would be good for your boiler, James?" "Would you all be quiet and go to sleep?" asked Emily. "I think so. It's only a train. Also, we have work tomorrow." "You're just cross Sir Topham Hatt didn't choose you," said James. "Maybe a bit, but I still have the express to take in the morning." James knew that Gordon was jealous. Early the next morning, the Fat Controller came to see James. "Tomorrow, as you know, you will take the special train. We haven't given it an official name yet, but you shouldn't have to worry. Normal stops at Crovan's Gate, Vickerstown, and Barrow-in-Furness will still continue, and I've persuaded British Railways to add coal and water stops along the line. And tomorrow, I know you'll like this, you will get a shiny coat of paint tomorrow." "Thank you, sir. I want to look good for my big event tomorrow." And he puffed away. "Is this full time, sir?" asked Henry. "No, I think I might get a diesel engine to do it sometimes. Or maybe you might be able to do the job sometimes." Henry was relieved, not only because the bragging would stop, but that multiple engines would be able to take the train. It was bright and early the next morning, and James's driver woke him up. "Wake up, James. We're going to the works to get you repainted." So quietly, James puffed out of the sheds and headed to the works. When he got there, he blew his whistle long and loud. It was so loud, it woke up the entire town of Crovan's Gate. "I'm ready for my new coat of paint!" James closed his eyes and dozed off. But the workmen were very tired and thought James needed a completely different color of paint. So they set to work. When James woke up, Sir Topham Hatt was there. "Come along, James, it's time to go." James looked at his new coat of paint and was aghast. "Black? Black? But sir, I can't go in an undercoat like this. I want everybody to see my glamorous shiny red paint. Paint me red again now." "I'm afraid there's no time. You'll just have to go with black for now, James. I'm riding with you. Hurry along now." James was furious. At the station, everyone was waiting for James to come to the platform. Everybody was admiring the new coaches. They were painted in a beautiful orange, just like the coaches used at the beginning of the railway. Then, everybody saw James. When they did, they laughed. James was very red in the face and was not happy to see anybody. Henry laughed the most. "Oh, James, you look like a black monster." "Or a black demon. I wonder if he could be a gremlin. Could you fit in Gordon's firebox?" "Oh." After Sir Topham Hatt made a speech about the train, the people got in, the guard's whistle blew, and James was off. He hoped no other engines would see him. But as he passed by, many other engines and people saw him. He passed by people taking his photo for the newspaper, and engines laughed at him as he passed on. Even the diesels on the other railway laughed at him. James was very embarrassed by this. When he returned home, still red in the face, Henry and the other engines teased him. "How was your trip with the Black Demon?" "What? Me, Thomas and Henry named it after Thomas said you looked like a black demon?" James just rolled his eyes and went to sleep. But the name stuck on the coaches, even after James was repainted. Even when the other engines took the train, the name remained. And now, the Black Demon coaches are taken on even longer journeys sometimes. And to James, he thought the idea was just silly. The Earl of Sodor is well known on the island. He owns a castle on a hill and owns many vintage and unique engines. However, he loves the Sodor railways and the engines that work on it, particularly the Scarlowy railway engines. He always wanted to have a visit to all the sites on the railway, and Sir Topham Hatt and Mr. Percival agreed to a private tour with him. Mr. Percival told his engines at once. "The Earl of Sodor, Sir Topham and I, have set up a tour, and I need one of you to take us all around the Scarlowy Railway." "Choose me, sir. I'm a great engine for the job," said Duncan excitedly. "I'm going to decide who gets to pull it by how hard they work throughout this week. Then I shall make my decision." The engines were excited. They all worked hard, especially Duncan. He didn't argue and didn't complain about anything, even the passengers. Finally, some peace and quiet. The week passed, and the Earl was coming the next day. Mr. Percival had made his decision. "All of you have worked very hard recently, and I'm proud of you. But, as I said, I can only choose one engine for the job. The engine I have chosen is Sir Handel." Sir Handel beamed. "Oh, what an honor! Thank you, sir." Duncan was surprised. "But, sir, I've worked harder than him. Why wasn't I chosen?" "I'm sorry, Duncan. I would have chosen you, but I just didn't think that you were the right engine for the job. As for you, Sir Handel, meet me tomorrow at the station at 10 in the morning. I want you to bring a bogey coach, so we can all fit inside of it. See you then." And Mr. Percival walked away. "I feel just like a king that has just started his reign of royalty over the people." "I should have been the one to be chosen. You didn't do that much this week. Remember when you didn't want to pull that slate train, and I had to pull it?" "Well, maybe the Earl wanted me other than a grumpy engine like you." This made Duncan even crosser. "Sir Handel, I know this is exciting for everything, but you must say something positive like, 'Better luck next time.'" But Sir Handel didn't care. He thought about being the Earl's special engine. The next day, Sir Handel arrived at the station, and there was the Earl, Sir Topham Hatt, and Mr. Percival. "Pleased to meet you, your highness. I hope that you will have a great ride." "What a kind engine you are. I will most certainly." As they were puffing through the forest, Sir Handel started to feel a pain in his smoke box. But he wasn't worried. He wanted to make sure that the Earl had a great ride. His driver, however, was concerned. Sir Handel, are you okay? Your steam pressure is up to an unhealthy level." "Fine, just fine. I can make it." But as they came towards Runaway Station, it happened. Sir Handel's pressure was too high for him to handle, and there was a loud noise that sounded like a kettle boiling. Then, steam billowed everywhere. He had burst his safety valve. "That's torn it," said his driver. "We need another engine now." Sir Handel felt terrible. While he couldn't say too much, he felt like that he had let everyone down. Duncan was nearby when the quarry manager came up to him. "Sir Handel is broken down. Mr. Percival wants the nearest engine to continue the journey. Since you're the closest, he wants you to take it." Reneus can take your train." Duncan was very excited. When he arrived at the site, Sir Handel was bright red in the face. "Oh dear, the king has fallen! Ring the bells!" Soon Duncan was off. The Earl had a wonderful time. He stopped at Lakeside for refreshments, saw the beautiful picnic area, and saw a lot of the engines. When they got to the station, the Earl thanked Duncan. "Even though Sir Handel broke down, you made sure the journey was still enjoyable. I shall remember you, Duncan. Come visit my castle at any time." All the engines arrived at the works to come and see Duncan and Sir Handel. Duncan was teasing Sir Handel. "Looks like Sir Handel's reign over the railway has ended. I think it might be time that I become the king." "I think it's a good time if nobody becomes the king for a while, and I don't think we need another ruler other than Mr. Percival." "King Percival!" laughed Peter Sam. All the engines laughed, even Prince Sir Handel. One day, Fergus was sitting in the yard. He was about to take a train back to the cement works. As he was resting, he noticed someone he knew. "Oi, be careful!" "Oh, shut up, you!" "Oh no, he's still here." Fergus saw a peculiar-looking Diesel. He went over to see what he was doing. "Diesel, just what do you think you're doing here?" said Fergus angrily. "I thought you worked at the scrapyards." "Well," said Diesel, "I've matured and helped with a shipment." "And how did that happen?" "Well," said Diesel, "I think I've got time." And this is the story Diesel told. Thomas was feeling ill and had to go to the works once again. The Fat Controller was in need of another engine, but the other railway had no engines to spare. It was a busy summertime too, and not many of the other engines could help either. So he had no choice but to get Diesel from the scrapyards. Diesel was brought into the branch line, and Diesel didn't expect a good first impression. Fortunately, Toby, Annie, Clarabelle, and Daisy were all very welcoming. Even Percy, which he had heard about the time Diesel helped rescue Thomas and his passengers, were very welcoming too. The Fat Controller spoke to Diesel. "You will go to the quarry and take Trux's stone down to the top station, then come back and work with Mavis." Diesel was glad to help out, but he wasn't sure about meeting Mavis. When he arrived, Mavis was shocked to see him. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I'm here to help take Trux's stone down to the top station and help shun trucks," replied Diesel. Mavis was furious. She didn't want a devious Diesel to help out with all the work. But what Mavis didn't know was that Diesel wasn't devious anymore. He pulled and shunted trucks with ease and didn't argue with anyone. However, he did show off a few times, which annoyed Mavis. She worked with Diesel for a few days when she came up with an idea. Later, she whispered to the trucks, "Can you push me after I load you guys later today?" "Yes, yes," said the trucks. Mavis smiled. "I'll show Diesel I'm much better at getting the trucks to the top station than him, and then Sir Topham Hatt will know I'm more better than him, and he'll take him away." A little later, Mavis was loading the trucks up. She reminded them, "When I load the last one of you lot, I want you to push me out of the quarry." The trucks didn't. They couldn't wait to put Mavis's plan into action. The manager was talking to Diesel when she saw Mavis rolling out of the yards. "Wait, Mavis," she called. "I need to talk with you about something very important." Mavis tried to stop, but the trucks put their plan into action. "On, on, on! Faster, faster, faster!" cried the trucks. Mavis then realized her mistake, and she headed right out of the quarry. "Oh no!" cried a horrified Diesel. "Don't worry, ma'am. I'll catch her." Mavis was going very fast. She didn't think that she could stop at the top station in time. "Help! Help!" she cried. She didn't know about the danger up ahead. The bridge that Toby had dangled on many years ago was very crooked, and engines had to go over it with care. However, today, the bridge collapsed. Mavis was going too fast to stop in time, and when she saw the danger ahead, she put her brakes on even harder. And then it happened. Luckily, no one was hurt. Diesel finally caught up and slowed down. "Goodness me," said Diesel. "Don't worry, Mavis. We'll get you out of there." Soon enough, Mavis was put back on track, and Diesel took Mavis back to the quarry. Diesel put Mavis into her shed, and the manager spoke to her. "Are you alright? How did you get in that mess?" Mavis decided to be truthful and explained everything. "I'm very disappointed with you, Mavis. Diesel has matured and he isn't devious anymore. He's shown that, albeit a few times, but he has gotten us very far with our work. You should apologize for your actions, you know," said the manager. "I'm sorry for all the trouble I've put you through today, and how rude I've been to you," said Mavis. "That's all right. I'm glad I saved you." Mavis couldn't help but smile. "Now," said the manager, "as I was saying, a big shipment is going to be coming in soon." "We were stuck on the other side for a few days until a new bridge was fixed, and then Thomas came. We all helped with a shipment, well, after we cleared out some bad fuel. And now I'm able to work on Sodor again." "Well, I see that you're a really useful engine now. I'm glad that you've matured," said Fergus. "That time, you really did it right." Just then, Philip came over.
"Fergus, your train is ready. Oh, hello, Diesel."
"Thanks, Philip. I'll be right over there. Good to chat with you, but I've got to take the cement train back to those cement works. Goodbye," whistled Fergus. Diesel smiled. It really is a wonderful railway to work on, he thought. Duck the Great Western Engine loves his branch line. He loves puffing along the branch line, which he nicknamed the Little Western. Donald, Douglas, and Oliver also liked working beside the sea. However, one night, their branch line was hit with a hurricane. It struck the island, but it struck the Little Western the most. When the hurricane was over, the branch line was a mess. Sand, branches, and other debris lay all over the track, and some parts of the line couldn't even be run on. The fat controller came to see the engines of the Little Western at Tidmouth Sheds. "I'm afraid the line is in need of huge repairs. The old bridge near Dilly's Pond is on the verge of breaking, tracks are bumpy and rusty, and it isn't safe for engines to run on the line. So I'm going to have to close it down until repairs are made." The engines were very sad. "However, I have gotten some new jobs for all of you. Donald and Douglas, I'm sending you two to Edward's branch line. I'm sure everyone will be happy to see you there."
"Thank you, sir."
"And Duck and Oliver, I'm sending you to Thomas's branch line. Mavis, the quarry diesel, has had engine issues and is getting sent to the works, and Daisy is having a checkup. The branch line is in need of some help, so you two will help the branch line engines, and I know that they will appreciate it." "Yes, sir," said Duck. "But what about Toad?" asked Oliver. "Toad may come with you. However, he will have to go on some stone trains for a few trips." "Yes, sir." "Great. That's all settled. Now, head on to your new jobs, and be careful, and go slow." As the engines puffed along the main line, it was a terrible mess. The stations were wrecked, and debris was all over the line. Soon they had to go their separate ways and said goodbye to each other. When Duck and Oliver arrived on the branch line, they had a warm reception. "We're glad you're here to help us," said Toby. "Glad to be back, I suppose," joked Duck. "Oliver, I'll meet you at the quarry. You can come with me. Duck, Thomas is helping deliver hurricane supplies, so we need you to take Annie and Clarabelle down the line. He should be back the next day, and during the next day, you shall be doing Daisy's work." So Duck coupled up to Annie and Clarabelle, and Oliver followed Toby to the quarry. Duck had a lovely time. The passengers enjoyed him, and he became popular on the branch line. Meanwhile, Oliver enjoyed his time with the quarry. He shunted trains and got them ready for engines to take out to the top station. He had gotten used to the line and enjoyed quarry work more than his usual work. "I'd be able to do this more often."
Only if Sir Topham Hatt allows you,
laughed Percy. The engines enjoyed their time, but secretly, Duck missed his branch line. When Thomas came back for work, he saw Duck with Annie and Clarabelle. "Thank you for your help, Duck," said Thomas. "No worries, Thomas. I'm just going to do Daisy's work for now. The passengers were put in good order." Soon Thomas was in a siding, waiting for Duck to pass by. He heard his whistle, and he puffed into the station. When the passengers went into the coaches, Duck had a sad face on. Soon the guard's whistle blew, and Duck blew a sad beep beep. Thomas was confused. When Thomas came to the shed that night, Duck was there, talking to the fat controller. "You have been a great help to the branch line, I've heard. I'm sure Thomas appreciates the helping hand." "Thank you, sir, but how long will it take until my branch line is done?" "It's going to take longer than expected, about 4 more weeks. Now I must be off. My wife's probably waiting for me back at home." And the fat controller drove off. Duck looked sad again. Thomas felt bad. "Duck, are you okay?" "Yes, Thomas, I'm fine." "Duck, you don't look happy. Please, tell me what's wrong." "All right. Well, my branch line was wrecked by the hurricane hard, and I've been working on your branch line for a while. I want to go home. It should have been ready by tomorrow. And now it's been pushed back more weeks. I'm not saying that I hate your branch line, not at all. I just want to go home." Thomas soothed him. "I would probably feel the same. But don't worry. I can help you feel like you're home. You can always talk to me or anyone on the branch line in case you need any advice or talk to someone." Duck felt better. "Thank you, Thomas. No worries. Now, how about I come in and you can tell me some stories about the branch line?" Duck loved the idea and spent the night talking about ducks and tenders and ruined breakfast. For a few more weeks, the engines worked hard. Duck suddenly felt right back at home again. He did all his work with ease and made the branch line work like clockwork. When it was time for Duck and Oliver to leave, Thomas and Duck were sad to say goodbye. "Come back again soon," said Thomas. "We will," said Duck. The two engines puffed home. Boco is a diesel engine. While he is a diesel, he has a good heart and cares for his fellow steam engine friends. He's also quick to criticize other diesel engines who think that the steam engines are out of date. However, he does know about scrapyards and understood the engine's fear of them. One morning, a fat controller came up to him. "The ironworks are in need of help. The scrap is piled up, and the yard needs to be cleaned up. However, you should just be there for the night. Then you can come back tomorrow morning. Don't worry too much." "Yes, sir, I understand." "You watch out for Daddy and Bert, the ironworks diesels. You don't take kindly to visitors." "Don't worry, Donald. I'll soon settle them." When he arrived, it was almost dark. The diesels were working hard.
Well, what do we have here? A big green fish. No, Harry, it's a big green building. But how does it move?
After hearing these jokes, Boco had had enough. "Well, I'll have you know, I'm a diesel engine, just like you. And I won't take any nonsense. You best be on your best behavior, or I'll put you in that scrap pile over there. Got it?" The twins just glared at Boco and got back to work. They wanted to find a way to scare Boco. They thought of scaring him by bumping into him or just coming up from behind him, but they knew those ideas were too simple. But they had a good plan they knew would scare Boco.
Boco, do you believe in ghosts?
Boco pondered. No, not really.
But there's something in the smelter's yard. Have you ever heard of the engine trying to find his lost whistle?
Yes, Edward tells that story to us sometimes.
Well, we saw him. He's hunting these yards.
Oh? How did you see him?
We saw him on the bridge, looking for his whistle. Tonight.
Oh, I'm sure you just saw some shadow on the wall.
Later that night, Boco was to take a train down to the nearby shunting yards. It was too dark and late for him to go to the mainland, and the scrapyard was still in need of some help. Another engine would take it in the morning. As he was coupling to the train, he saw a line of cars beginning to move. But when he saw the end of the train, it was rolling by itself at normal speed. He looked back and didn't see Harry and Bert. He was glad when it was time to go. But when he got going, it didn't seem to worry him. He was glad to get away from Harry and Bert. Meanwhile, Bert was taking some scrap towards the smelting shed. He knew Harry's plan was to pull their trick on Boco. But when he saw Boco, not looking bothered, he was furious. He was wondering now what to do with the big diesel. But as he was thinking, he didn't realize how fast he was entering the smelting shed. Harry was just taking the cars from his trick to the smelting shed, where they would be taken care of. Just then, he saw Bert coming in much too fast.
Slow down, Bert.
Before Bert could apply his brakes, it was too late. He got straight into Harry, and they raced into the sheds. Ahead was the smelting pit. Bert knew this, but their brakes couldn't work, as the scrap was too heavy. They stopped just in time. Harry's front two wheels went over the edge, and Bert was trying to help him get back on the rails.
Help! Help! I'm trying!
Harry was trying to pull, but the combined weight of the scrap cars were too heavy to push and pull by himself.
Don't think I can do it anymore, Harry. I need to stop. Oh, please save me.
Suddenly, Harry and Bert heard an engine come up and start to pull. Suddenly, for Bert, it all became easy. Soon, Harry was saved. Soon, Boco arrived, and Sir Topham Hatt was on board.
I hear that you two have been causing mischief for Boco. In fact, you've been very rude to any other engine that comes to work here for the past couple of days. I think that you will need some time outside the ironworks. Maybe a bit of fresh air can change your attitude.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
You all should be grateful for Boco saving you. I think you owe him an apology.
We're sorry, Boco. We really didn't mean it. We thought a bit of fun.
It's alright. And sir, I didn't rescue that. It's alright, Boco. Back to work, everybody.
Wait, if you didn't rescue us, who did?
That's when all three engines realized who did. And for the rest of the night, they all stayed silent. Terrence is a tractor that works close to Thomas's line. He's always helpful to the branch line, and he is very helpful to his owner, Farmer Finley. Farmer Finley is always very protective of Terrence. He always puts him in park when he is not in use, and is very careful in letting children have a ride on Terrence. One day, Terrence was called into the top station to help clean up a mess. Percy was there as stone cars laid everywhere.
Oh dear, what happened here?
I was trying to make the stone cars behave, but they took me for a ride and derailed on the points. I'll soon get this settled. Once the work was done, Terrence spoke to Percy. Oh, thank you, Terrence. Let's hope another runaway like that doesn't happen again. Terrence decided to give Percy some of his tractor knowledge. Well, Percy, it won't be me who is the next runaway. You see, us tractors have something called park, while you engines are just kept with brakes, which don't seem to work during runaways. However, I am taken care of, and can't be a runaway. Percy was cross at him, and he stormed away. Terrence smiled. Yup, that's how good tractors are. The next day, Terrence was going to market with some fresh fruit. The market was packed, and many people were there.
Farmer Finley left Terence and he went to drop the fruit off and to buy some goods from his family. Terence closed his eyes and dozed off. While he slept, a mother and her child came up to him.
Mummy, look!
I can see the tractor, honey. It's orange.
I want to ride it.
Well, we've got to get home now.
No, I'm not going until I ride it.
I don't see the owner.
Mom!
All right, you can sit on him. As the boy was on the tractor, he fiddled with the controls. Then he started up the engine. That scared him, and he and his mother went off. Terence, unaware of the commotion, was very shocked at the sudden start. He then started to move towards the hill. He was moving because the little boy had taken him out of park. He was heading down the hill. Farmer Friendly saw Terence running on his own and quickly tried to stop him.
Stop!
Terence then heard Farmer Finley yelling. Then he knew he wasn't being driven. He was moving on his own. Help! Help! Someone help me! Terence went away from the market and towards the open country. As he was rolling, he saw a lorry and braced. The lorry swerved to try to miss Terence, but bumped him so hard he went in a different direction. Terence rolled onto the grass and crashed through a fence. That stopped him. Luckily, no one was hurt. Farmer Finley arrived a few minutes later. Are you all right, Terence? I'm fine. Nothing but a dent, that's all. Farmer Finley went back up to the market and called the Farquhar station master to spread the word across the line. Soon Percy arrived to collect Terence. How did this happen? Well, I was a runaway. Percy couldn't help but laugh. It's not funny. It's a bit funny after you boasted about it. Soon Terence was put onto the well wagon, and Percy took him to Jem Cole's, where he would fix him up in no time. After Terence was unloaded, he had something to say to Percy. I'm sorry for boasting, Percy. I knew I shouldn't have been like that. No worries. It can happen not just to us, but could have happened to any other engine or vehicle. How about we just forget about this, and that it never happened? Terence gladly agreed. The holidays are a busy time on the island of Sodor. People are coming in and out of the railway. Parcels need to be delivered, and goods need to be delivered so that shops and businesses have enough supplies for shopping. The island was also getting ready for the big annual Christmas parade. Engines and vehicles alike were delivering party supplies and festive decorations for Knapford Station. Molly was most cheerful around this time of year. She loved taking all the different supplies everywhere and saying "Merry Christmas" to all of her friends, and people watched her go by. However, not everyone was all holly jolly like her. Molly and Elizabeth hadn't spoken to each other since their accident a few months back, but Molly was determined that this Christmas would be a great chance to become allies again. It wouldn't be long before she saw her. One day, she was getting unloaded of some items from the shops when Elizabeth arrived, looking very grumpy indeed.
Hello again, Elizabeth.
And what do you want? Do you want to mess with me too?
Oh, no, certainly not. I just wanted to know why you look glum.
It's those awful shoppers. They're just entitled and rude. They didn't even stop to look at the road crossing in town, I say.
Well, you don't need to be a Scrooge around it. I'm sure it's just the stress of the holiday.
Who are you calling a Scrooge? Are you just trying to tease me? You know what? I don't want to know. I'm leaving. I don't want to see you again.
Molly tried to be cheerful. Well, Merry Christmas.
Bah humbug to you!
Molly felt bad for Elizabeth, but she seemed like she wanted to be left alone. Later on, Molly chuffed sadly into Knapford with an empty goods train for the little goods station. It was the big day of the big Christmas party, and Molly still felt bad about Elizabeth. Edward couldn't help but notice. Molly, he asked, are you okay? No. Why not? You have a lot to look forward to tonight. It's just Elizabeth. I feel bad for what happened earlier this year. I don't think she wants to talk or see me. Don't worry, it takes time sometimes. It could be even longer and go through next year. But just know, if you do or don't become friends, you still get to know Elizabeth. Thank you, Edward. You always had the best advice, even when I don't need it. You know me. They say I'm wise. It was dark, and Molly had just dropped off her last train for Christmas. She was just about to leave when suddenly, the station master ran out of his office. Elizabeth is in trouble! She can't stop, and she's a precious load! We need an engine to stop her! Don't worry, I'm on my way! Molly sped down the track to find Elizabeth. At last, she caught up with her. Elizabeth, are you okay? Oh, it's you! What does it look like? I'm not okay! Molly looked around for a way to stop Elizabeth. Then, she saw the crossing gate. If I could get to the crossing gate and stop before Elizabeth, I could be able to have her crash into me and have her stop. So Molly drew ahead. Whoa! What are you doing? The only way to stop you! Molly stopped right at the gates. Are you serious? Get out of the way, dear! Just crash into me! Trust me! The plan had worked. Yes! We've done it! Payback for what I did, eh? You're funny. Thank you. Now we need to deliver the Star of Knapford, but my brakes had failed. That's why I couldn't stop. Oh, that's what you're carrying. I've got a plan. Molly raced back to the goods station and grabbed the flatbed. Then she raced back and loaded Elizabeth onto the flatbed. Now let's get going. You're right. I'm freezing. All the engines were waiting at the station for the Star of Knapford. They were starting to get worried. Suddenly, they heard a whistle. There was Molly and Elizabeth. All the engines cheered. The star was put on top of the station, and everyone cheered again. Elizabeth spoke to Molly. Thank you, dear. I'm sorry for what I said earlier. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that I was able to get to know you better. And they enjoyed the festivities of the party together.